All these exaggerated headlines are no different from zombie rumors, and there is nothing exciting about a popular girl breaking up with someone. This is the beauty Jenny Qingli. She entered the prestigious Qingcheng University, and her boyfriend couldn't even get into a regular university. After thinking about it, Jenny realized that it was time to end their relationship. It takes courage to live together for a lifetime, and both partners must be on roughly the same level. Even if Dongfan tried his best to bring Jenny back, nothing would work. Dan is silent. He is probably so shocked that he is speechless. Someone like him was never worthy of Jenny from the start. Dan reacts very coldly. He just agrees, and will leave first if Jenny has nothing else to say. No matter how much he begged and no matter what he did, she would not return to him. Don't think you're more important than you actually are. Dan is very busy. Jenny and all these people have no idea about the coming crises. Dan is no longer the man they knew. He has returned from the future where a disaster occurred. Right now, he has much more important things to do than what occupies the minds of these people. Humanity is facing a real threat, and the story begins last night. The revival of spiritual energy will begin in 361 days, 11 hours and 59 minutes. The standards of society will be completely rewritten. The era of spiritual practitioners will begin. Strength will become the only standard. This system was created on the outskirts of the universe. It uses a higher algorithm. The system automatically creates spiritual techniques. A monster's head appears from the screen. This would have been Dan's fate if he had been an ordinary person. He remembered that he had been like this in his past life and had been carried away by the flood. Before his eyes, the country was collapsing and people were dying. And in the end, he died too. But the system gave him a chance to return a year before the beginning of the revival of spiritual energy. Dan uses this year to turn any phenomenon to his advantage. The situation that humanity is now facing is extremely dangerous. It has begun. Previously, such claims of supernatural phenomena would have been immediately deleted. The calm announcement was the approach the Xia country used to allow people to prepare psychologically. The system said that everything can be used to create techniques. Qingcheng University warns of extreme heat at its northern gate. This is definitely fake news. When seeing an unfamiliar phenomenon, most people think it's a joke. This is a chance. Dan arrives at the north gate of the university. There really is something wrong with this place. Golden sparks are scattered over the ground. Solar energy disturbance detected. The formation is complete. Dan has received the golden sun breath technique. Jenny arrived at the university. Students are warned about heat at the north gate. There are a lot of strange things happening lately. Jenny can't ignore them. By looking at the scorching sun and breathing in the heat, Dan can use the golden breath of the sun to strengthen his body. New technique mastered. 50 points received. The sky suddenly darkened and I felt a chill in the air. There is a crowd at the northern gate. It was announced that people should stay away from the area. The northern gate area needs to be completely sealed off. The pollution zone has been cleared. This is the zone where the energy of rebirth appears. All unauthorized persons must evacuate the area near the north gate immediately. We need to leave. Perhaps someone has already begun to resonate with spiritual energy. Jenny thought she saw Dan, but he couldn't enter Qingcheng University. This heat does not leave his body. Neither a cold shower nor air conditioning helps. If this continues, Dan won't be able to sleep. He might have been noticed today. The Association of Spiritual Energy Practitioners has updated its rating system. This is an online group that occasionally posts spiritual training practices. Perhaps these are the people Dan saw at the university. He had not heard of this association in his past life. We must try to restart the golden breath of the sun. First of all, you need to strengthen your body, so that it is able to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. Dan has reached the rank of first star Ghost Axe. He can use the glasses to implant the acquired data into any object. You can try it on a mug. This means that when data is embedded, the object gains magical properties. It could be a gun, a sword, or something like that. A weapon with magical properties, created especially for him, will be very useful in the future. Better start experimenting now. A mutated beast appears near Dan's house. At night, Dan wakes up to the sound of voices. They come from the neighboring house. Since Dan has reached the rank of a spiritual axe, his hearing has become sharper, so hearing sounds from neighboring houses is quite normal. Something is wrong. Dan opens the apartment door. There is a monster in the corridor. It was a mutated rabbit. Memories of its past life were blurry, but when Dan saw the creature again, chills ran down his spine. The rabbit that swallowed the dark spirit fruit is still on the loose and is incredibly fast. They detected his aura. May picked up a trace of his dark energy. The target ran into a residential area. His transformation is not complete yet. He can continue to transform and become stronger. Dan's body has changed greatly since the breakthrough, and the monster's slow movements are now clearly visible. Based on the memories from its past life, this creature has not yet completed its transformation. He needs to be stopped. Otherwise, everyone in this building will become his food. His weak point is his tail. Dan pierces the monster with solar energy. The power of the sun is fierce and majestic. This rabbit seeks its own destruction. He acted like he was insanely hungry, as if he wanted to absorb all the energy in Dan's body. He attacks furiously despite being suppressed by the sun element. To counter such threats, more techniques need to be collected. The monster is dead. The corpse is torn to pieces. Mei begins collecting the remaining dark energy. For some reason, it's very hot. The highest level of solar energy is the same as that at the north gate of Qingcheng University. Mei didn't kill the rabbit. A new pioneer with high-class elemental affinity appeared. A pioneer with such talent is not found in the headquarters archives. The association must find him at any cost. We need to put all current tasks on hold and find a pioneer as our top priority. It would be good if they could convince him to join the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association. Mei understood everything, but now she just needed a cup of milk tea. A man with such power must truly be a real expert. This morning, the sparkling sunlight illuminates Dan's body. Waking up early motivates you to train even harder. Feeling the morning light, Dan activates the golden breath of the sun technique. Once he reached the level of the ghost axe, he felt the energy of the technique forming into thin threads around the divine axe. It seems much lighter than yesterday. Training is like chopping wood. No secrets, just persistence. Dan was promoted to second star in the rank of ghost axe. He became even stronger and more resilient. But while he's progressing quickly, that's partly due to the energy left over from his last breakthrough. From this point on, we need to move forward step by step. However, it is dangerous to train inside a building. You need to find a quiet, isolated place. Solar energy wave detected. Dan found a secluded spot in the mountains. He uses glasses to infuse the sun's energy into the object. Last time he tried to use a fake knife, but it couldn't withstand the sun's energy. This time, Dan feels that the sword has the same inner strength as him. Excellent weapon. Now we need to test its power. Dan almost set the entire mountain on fire. The sound was quite loud and smoke rose. We need to get out of here quickly. Mei simply went out to buy milk tea at a discount, but ended up missing the opportunity again. She will be criticized again. Just last night, this guy's aura was at the level of a 1-star ghost axe, but now it has risen to 2. Perhaps he has a spiritual weapon. But this is a great rarity. Even in the association, there are only 2 examples of such weapons. Maybe Mei is wrong, but in any case, it's better to start sorting out this mess. Now Dan's weapon contains the sun element, but the system said that different techniques could be created. A pioneer wrote to him. He writes that he followed his views and saw that Dan is interested in the latest news about anomalies. Perhaps he is also a pioneer. Dan forgot to set up privacy. The pioneer invites him to join the team. A new polluted area has recently appeared. The Dark Dragon Blazing River region was formed due to cracks in the Earth's crust, where a dark river spilled out, the flow of water turning into molten lava. With Susan's map and materials, they immediately knew where to go. It's a pity that there are no strong and promising pioneers among them. She wanted to recommend someone to the association. Many pioneers don't know that the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association is actually an official body of the Xia country. Susan got there thanks to a multi-stage selection process, and of course, not without family connections. If nothing works out this time, I'll probably have to work harder again. Dan arrived. Although his aura is very strong, there is no aggression emanating from him. On the contrary, his aura is very warm. Once everyone is gathered, they go. Dan will take the lead role. It's not as hot here as they thought. Maybe they haven't reached the center of the pollution yet. The group perceives Dan as one of their own. Perhaps they are looking for a reliable ally. They came. Dan plunges his hand into the lava. The high temperature carries an explosive element. To unleash its power, one must bear the blade. Each swing is a roar of flame. The blade is covered in a furious fire, generating fiery lightning. Dan is fine. His weapon is absorbing the power of the lava. A little more, and they will officially enter the path of spiritual practitioners. Susan is only here to collect data. Let them train. She will monitor the situation. Other pioneers came. They tell us to get out of here. All 3 are at the level of the 1-star ghost axe. You shouldn't mess with them. They found this place first. Susan's friends had already begun to absorb spiritual energy. But it is useless to talk to these pioneers. In the era of the revival of spiritual energy, the principle of survival of the fittest applies. Dan appears. The pioneer is big and strong, but he can only bully a weak girl. Dan thrusts his sword into the ground. Due to the principle of survival of the fittest, spiritual practitioners experience irresolvable conflicts. It is impossible to intimidate these people with simple words. Let them go away. The pioneers flee. This hit was incredibly cool. There seems to be no more spiritual energy in this area. If that blow had hit its target, there would have been only a few burnt corpses left here. It is imperative to notify the association. So, a pioneer with a high-level element has appeared again. They were lucky, 2 high-level pioneers in a row. These outstanding personalities now have a noble status and will occupy high positions in the future. Dan pretends to be a cosplayer to avoid attention. The 1,000-year-old cave temple is bathed in golden light, and a purple mist spreads from it along the ground. We even managed to film a huge dragon flying by. It was all because of the element of inner flame that Dan was careless. He has absorbed a large amount of energy from the sun, and it seems that if he uses the same method, he can advance even further. We need to go to the back hill urgently. Finally, May finished. What a powerful aura. This man is somewhere here in the mountains. It seems he has reached the 3rd star of the Ghost Axe rank. If it's that guy, May will definitely catch him. It forms the power of the Ghost Axe. He must have been training for hundreds of years. When May tried to reach the 3rd star of the Ghost Axe, she failed and lay in bed for a week. Every swing of the ghostly axe seems to have been honed by thousands of training sessions. This man is like a deity descended to earth. Many people are in a hurry to achieve results, but this person acts calmly, like an unknown master. Dan strengthened the rank of the 2nd star Ghost Axe. May didn't make it in time again, and only 30 seconds had passed. If she's not mistaken, Dan noticed her following him, but it seems he hasn't left yet. May has been watching him for several days. May is the captain of the Firefly Squad of the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association. She wants to invite him to join them, and has been following him for this purpose only. Although the association is not open to the general public, they have all the official documents. Dan might find May too pushy, so he needs to be careful with his words. The Xia country wants to find and unite pioneers to make them more organized, and provide additional protection. May understands that joining the association could limit Deng, but in the end, they all have to face the rebirth of spiritual energy and unknown enemies. Dan can't trust them completely yet. Her name is Mei Senying. She used to be an athlete. Dan remembers her, as he thought, talented people often become pioneers. In a past life, the entire civilization was destroyed. Now Dan will definitely become part of these events. But not now. He will think that Mei should temporarily cover his tracks. Judging by her behavior, the association avoids conflicts with pioneers like Dan. Mei will cooperate with him, but his breakthrough has already been noticed, so he will have to report it anyway. Dan disappeared. Mei had put so much effort into unraveling the traces left by this master, but she would have to accept it. Here she is informed about the appearance of anomalies. Mei will never forget those strange and cruel creatures. Anomalies can exist in the form of monsters and disasters. If they are not destroyed, they will continue to wreak havoc. Red alert for thunderstorms and rain. High risk of flooding in the Yuhuang mountain area. The concentration of thunderstorm energy is very dense. The center of the storm is there. Yuhuang Mountain is one of the largest tourist sites. The level of pollution is unknown. The danger level at the mountaintop is rapidly increasing. Spiritual energy with the element of thunder is rapidly getting out of control. If the situation continues to develop in this way, then within an hour, the summit could be assigned Class S. Even 3-star Ghost Axe level pioneers are guaranteed to die. Then we need to completely close the mountain and post a 24-hour patrol so that no one can climb it. It's good that Dan has the Golden Sun Breath technique, but to extract the purest lightning energy, you have to get to the top. Humanity risks ending up at the bottom of the food chain, with even rabbits and mice now posing a threat. And in the future, entities more terrible than all known monsters will appear. The solar element enhances the blade's durability, while the Bloodfire sword technique enhances its destructive power. The power of thunder concentrated here is a unique chance to strengthen the body. To become stronger, you need to look for new opportunities in a changing world. This is an incredibly powerful energy. She is furious that Dan has invaded her area. It is necessary to use the full power of the golden breath of the sun. Dan will endure, reach the top, and be reborn through death. Even just breathing makes him feel his muscles become paralyzed. It seems as if there is a figure in the sky, as if someone from the higher worlds is undergoing a heavenly test. Dan obtained the Divine Thunder Great Power technique. Summoning heavenly lightning and tempering his body, he becomes godlike. They say that in ancient times, spiritual practitioners absorbed lightning, and their bodies became indestructible. Lightning is a spear and a shield. It is purification and rebirth, the purest power of heavenly justice, destroying evil. Dan can put this power into the sword, but this will violate the purity of the solar element. Dan then implanted the lightning element into his right hand. The pollution level at Yuhuang Peak dropped to light levels within 3 hours. There was a pioneer here. Mei can't trace his element or when he left. He most likely left the summit around 8 in the evening. This person may have abilities related to the element of lightning. The question is whether he found this source of power by accident, or came into contact with it intentionally. Such people are the most dangerous. It is unclear whose side they are on. It is necessary to find him as quickly as possible, and at any cost. temporary callsign tyrant. There is one high-level pioneer who is now trying to contact him. This is the pioneer who previously cleaned up the pollution zone at the north gate of Qingcheng University. Mei constantly tries to contact him, but he appears and disappears like a ghost. The information is only half true, but that's the only way they'll believe it. Good job, they need young people like Mei. When Dan infuses the lightning element, you can really feel the change. Under the influence of lightning, his right arm became the strongest part of his body. This initially aggressive and untamable element, after its introduction, became as obedient as a kitten. When Dan first activated the golden breath of the sun, the pain was unbearable. Perhaps after absorption, the element is somehow weakened. Something happened again. After the recent incident, Dan set up special notifications for the news and forums. For pioneers like him, these warnings are also a source of opportunity. An explosion at a chemical plant caused pollution within the city limits. Fortunately, no one was injured. It's hard to believe this was a coincidence. A user living near the plant writes that the feeling was very strange. A cold and ominous atmosphere. In a past life, there was an ominous creature there. These creatures like to appear in dark places after mutation. They gained intelligence. Their strength and development are amazing. They are much more dangerous than the mutated rabbit. It's time to test what lightning energy is capable of in a real fight. The destroyer squad was monitoring the night candle anomaly. When close, it makes a barely audible crackling sound and feeds on human flesh. In such weather, she will definitely start hunting. Estimated response time is within 12 hours. The demolition squad must continue to monitor and ensure maximum security. 12 hours is the maximum that the headquarters can allocate. It is already overloaded. In the area where the squad is currently located, the captain of the Firefly squad, Mei Ying, is on a mission. They can ask her to help them. Apparently they are processing. They're dealing with a night candle anomaly that's eating people, so there's no time for jokes about overtime. It seems like their squad is so high level that they don't need any help. Mei herself knows how dangerous the night candle is. If they are eaten, people in the city will die. Now, no kidding. Mei had no intention of refusing. This creature operates only in the dark, hides and makes almost no sounds. Dan smells it. It's too pungent and heavy. They found him. The target detected their presence. She is completely surrounded. The night candle emits sound waves. She tries to escape by digging the ground. It is a corrosive dark energy. They do not have a strong enough counteracting force. We can't let the monster escape. It seems that the concentration of spiritual energy has increased dramatically. They are inside an abandoned factory. The maximum concentration of energy that a team can withstand is 50 units. Already 80. There seems to be another anomaly here. The night candle deliberately lured them here. Mei was gassed. There is a possibility that it is a giant snake. This black fog is toxic. They were poisoned from the moment they entered here. Mei's spiritual energy is almost at zero. Light leaks through a hole in the ceiling. A figure appears in the growing hole. This is Dan, so this is a dark-type anomaly. Now it's clear there are two anomalies here. One lures, the other kills, a cunning couple. Since this rat likes to bite, let him taste lightning. Now it's the snake's turn. Dan uses the blade, but as expected, it didn't help much. However, by using the bloodfire sword technique, Dan took control of the snake's power and suppressed it. The night candle is not particularly strong, unlike this snake. Dan got hit by her scales. This creature has already mutated. Its intelligence is more developed. Dan feels a sharp pain, probably due to the continuous flow of solar energy in his body. The sun element protects and heals, and the lightning element cleanses. The snake was able to secretly evolve to enormous sizes, and it was also in alliance with the night candle. And yet, no matter how sinister and poisonous it is, its end is ashes and dust. There's someone here. This is the girl from the association. Her acting dead needs some work. Mei woke up to the smell, and she wasn't playing dead. She is strong. Her teammates used up all their spiritual energy, but she had enough strength to defend herself. She doesn't have to turn a blind eye anymore. Just promise to be honest and not reveal Dan's identity. He is much friendlier now than he used to be. He's leaving. It's a good thing Mei didn't see him just try to absorb dark energy. It's all over. A certain pioneer came to their aid. Mei's original task was to track a pioneer with very high solar energy levels. The remnants of this electrical energy are too clear. Perhaps there were two pioneers here. One who killed the snake, and the other the night candle. No one would believe that one person possesses two high-level elements. This man is just a monster. The association sent scouts to the scene, their initial goal being to recover the bodies. They thought they had lost their captain forever. Everything points to one person who destroyed both anomalies. They are all Ghost Axe ranks, but the difference is simply incredible. He saved Mei and destroyed the anomalies, which means he is not an enemy of the association. For now, it's best to avoid contact with the tyrant, to make a good impression on him, and for Mei's safety. She has a theory about what happened when Tyrant was about to cultivate on the mountain. She noticed an incredibly strong aura in the area where he was operating. May suspected that he had a spiritual weapon. There is no chance that he can have it without outside help or resources. The aura of the spiritual weapon that May felt was similar to the element of the sun. If he has reached the soul creation rank, it is theoretically possible to do it alone. Even on a global scale, spiritual practices at this level are very rare. According to research, different elements are incompatible in the human body. It is to be hoped that such a powerful pioneer will not become an enemy of humanity. There is less than a year left until the official revival of spiritual energy, and anomalies are already everywhere. Many pioneers like Dan began cultivating energy on their own. Once there is interaction between the body and the spiritual world, they become more sensitive to changes in the sky and on the earth. Like those people at the underground river, people are increasingly discussing unexplained phenomena, and it is clear that the government is trying to prepare for them. But once the information becomes public, order will collapse. Dan is concerned that the development of anomalies is exceeding his expectations. They are much smarter than ordinary mutated animals, although they still do not reach the level of those that can destroy a country, or even a continent. Dan has the technique of golden breath of the sun, great power of divine thunder and bloody fire sword. But this is still not enough. The phone rings. This is Dan's aunt. His cousin will be going to summer school near his house, so maybe she can stay with Dan. All he remembers about her is that she is an excellent student, obsessed with studying. Let him come. The city that became famous on the internet has been renamed the City of Death, and 3 more people have gone missing. Everything is packed, but Lynn doesn't want to disturb her cousin. The hotel is also not bad. It's safer with her cousin, and she shouldn't cause him any problems. Whoever the cousin is, he is unlikely to be more difficult than the anomaly. Lynn comes to visit Dan. If she needs anything, let her say so. It seems like the cousin is kind and easy to get along with. Either his feelings are failing him, or Lynn is not hiding her secrets well. As he sat next to her, he felt a faint aura. Dan didn't expect that living with his cousin would bring so many problems with training meditation could be interrupted at any moment. He hadn't noticed before how bright the golden breath of the sun looked. For dinner today we have beef stewed with tomatoes, cucumber salad, and corn rib soup. Lynn has excellent manners and does her housework flawlessly. However, Dan doesn't stop her to ease her guard. Lynn was written by someone. It's probably her friend. She can talk to her. Dan will go to his room. The anomaly will appear again tomorrow. Lynn will definitely come. They will meet at the entrance to Manhwa. It is a famous tourist town just an hour's drive away. As Dan thought, Lynn is also a pioneer. Luckily, at her level, she won't notice it. While in high school, she had already reached the level of the 2nd star of the Ghost Axe. I wonder what element this anomaly has in Manhwa. Whatever it is, Dan will get it. Lynn felt like someone was watching her. She said that she lives with her cousin. I wonder what he's like. He's a good man, but he's completely ordinary in appearance. Not the type of internet celebrity Helen likes. Now that everything is here, we can go. It looks like Lynn's team is keeping a low profile too. The weakest among them is at the level of the 2nd star of the Ghost Axe. A vine has appeared in the mountains of this tourist town, hanging from the sky. Plants appear at different times in the area around Manhwa, and this contradicts all the knowledge of the pioneers. This anomaly is not related to weather, land collapse, or surface change. So it's true. Maybe we shouldn't come closer. Just one look gives me goosebumps. Sally has friends on another team, and the last time this plant appeared, they tried to touch it. After that, they all disappeared. Sally has a feeling they might end up the same way. My intuition tells me that this is something powerful and completely new. In fact, they all felt it. It feels like you are drowning in a river of time where all life has disappeared. Dan has seen many different anomalies, but these vines are the most alarming. Although they are plants, they do not appear to be alive. Since it is dangerous, you can just practice here. It's no wonder Lynn excels in her studies. She's carefully calculated the location to get the most benefit. She has already reached the rank of a 3rd star spiritual axe. Suddenly the vines began to move towards the pioneers. They captured several of them. Lynn's breakthrough made too much noise. They can't leave. Lynn will be in danger. If she is willing to die to become stronger, that is her business. Life and death are in the hands of fate. They are all strangers who met by chance. Then let them go. But Alice will not abandon her comrade. The power of these vines is great. Dan doesn't know if his strength is enough to save Lynn, but he made a promise that he would take care of her. Alice tries to make her way through the vines, but they grab her. The vine broke through Lynn's barrier. Dan rushes to help. He strikes the vine with the power of the sun. The vines retreated. Only the element of the sun of such purity can suppress them. Compared to this pioneer, they are only wandering pale stars adorning the moon. Concentrated wood element detected. It can absorb surrounding life force and quickly repair bodily damage. The element of devastation, capable of corroding all surrounding life force, has been extracted. If this vine had grown anywhere else, all the life force within tens of miles would have been dried up to the bone. If it weren't for Dan, they would have died. They will meet again. People most easily show their true colors in crisis situations. This team is unreliable. The threat had passed, and Lin had almost completed strengthening the third rank. She woke up. Lin asks what happened here. Such a powerful trail of energy, even at this distance she can feel how scorching and overwhelming it is. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't damage the vine, but he did it with one blow. The vine rose higher into the sky, not daring to come close to them. Lin is back. She looks pale. Studying is a bit tiring. Lin is really exhausting herself. She needs to rest. Today she can order food. Breakthrough takes too much energy. Heaven and earth are already beginning to change. The life of an ordinary person is no longer for Lin. Someone in the group asks to let me know if there are any more leads about that master. The high-level sun element god appeared again, and with a single strike, a rainbow pierced the sun, and the daylight was swallowed by a boundless white radiance. Now Lin might be less wary and not suspect that Dan is following her. While there is still a chance, it is worth figuring out how to use the element of devastation. It's the closest to the plant type, but its essence is corrosive. If Dan puts it inside himself, it could end badly. He knows where to go. Dan arrives at the forest park. You need to choose the plant that resonates most strongly with his aura. Quite active, but still not enough. I think this is it. This flower looks ordinary, but when interacting with the aura, it even rubs against your finger. Of all the plants, it reacts most strongly to Dan's aura, and is ideal for introducing the element of devastation. Then it's decided. The element of devastation has been introduced. This power is like the touch of a demon. In just 3 seconds, the flower engulfed almost the entire territory of the forest park. At this rate, Dan will attract the attention of people from the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association. There are a lot of CCTV cameras here, but the place itself is completely deserted. The flower still hasn't stopped absorbing. Warning, abnormal value exceeds limit. Dan has attracted the attention of the CCTV system. It's time to go. The spiritual energy anomaly exceeds 10. Humidity, soil temperature, and other indicators are normal, but it feels as if the life has been sucked out of the plants in a matter of seconds. This is the element of devastation. The vine hanging from the sky is extremely deadly because it possesses this element. It sucks the life force out of everything around it. The team leader read about another devastating plant in the Xia country, in the forbidden area of the ancient tree in Kangcheng. It is a giant rotting tree that pollutes the entire forest. Lieutenant Colonel Khan was informed of the situation. All researchers must equip themselves and proceed to the contaminated area. The source of the devastation has not been found. He was taken away. Based on video surveillance and analysis, they found information about the suspect. He is most likely the pioneer that May encountered earlier. Dan grows a flower for the first time. In fact, this little white flower is now his reliable assistant. He looks completely unremarkable. Even Lin wouldn't suspect anything. Van is calling. This is Dan's childhood friend who joined the army 3 years ago. They were desk mates in elementary and middle school. But then Wang suddenly left, saying he would serve in the army. He came back and offered to have a drink. He also has a big secret that he must tell Dan. Van did as he was told. This bungler has matured a lot. In his past life, Dan never got to see him again. As a soldier, he probably died in some nameless battle. Vei asks if Dan has noticed anything strange lately, like in the movies, like monsters. News of the revival of spiritual energy should have reached the army long ago, but Wang asked about it as if he was trying to find out something. Dan says he doesn't understand what he's talking about. In fact, Wang came to warn him about something. In the near future, everything they value now, education, wealth, and the like, will become worthless trash. Ordinary soldiers are ordered to remain silent, forced to sign an agreement forbidding them from even hinting at the revival of spiritual energy. It turns out that the military has already marked Dan as a suspect. Van gets a call and is told to return to base immediately. Urgent task, we need to go. If it's related to the revival of spiritual energy, Dan would like to go with Wang. Their meeting is, of course, an order from his superiors, but Dan is confident that it will not harm him. Besides, it is very interesting what the army does. There is very strong spiritual energy here. Its concentration is even higher than in polluted areas. There is a monster here. He attacks. The unusual fusion of the elements of darkness and fire made this dog especially ferocious. Van brought an outsider into the restricted area without permission. But it doesn't matter now. The situation is critical. He must immediately take up formation. This person does not look special. His spiritual energy is only slightly active. This is a restricted area. Everything he sees is strictly confidential. The mutation is progressing again. The dog's claws became incredibly huge. We need to finish him off before he transforms completely. A trained squad, with the strictest discipline and high level of cohesion, together they can unleash a force beyond their individual capabilities. However, now everything is not so smooth. They must run. They cannot cope with this monster. Officer Amanda Lan orders no retreat. The Hellhound has completely merged with the element of darkness and completed its mutation. Wong simply tried to channel spiritual energy into his restraining collar, but was hit back. Even if they had to give up their lives, they would never allow a level B mutant to leave the restricted area. Dan activates the lightning element. If the dog is so arrogant, let him tear him to pieces. This is a B-level mutation that even Officer Lan couldn't handle alone. It's clear this man is the tyrant. The monster is not quite dead yet. Dan's mastery of lightning is at the highest level. Even in today's world, it's simply incredible. When the complete revival of spiritual energy comes, it is scary to imagine how he will be able to evolve. He fully lives up to his nickname Tyrant. Van didn't think his friend was that cool. Amanda Lan is grateful for the assistance. She hopes that they can exchange contacts. Watching an officer salute Van's childhood friend is a surreal sight. Dan's strength surpasses many of the pioneers recruited by the army, so Amanda wants to invite him to join the Xia country's armed forces. They are acting on orders from above and only wanted to talk to him. If any problems arise in the future, please do not hesitate to contact us. He will come to the rescue, but on the condition that they do not interfere with his spiritual practices and do not limit him. Now Dan understood the role of the army. They are deployed in regions rich in spiritual energy, but dangerous. The fact that Dan became such a powerful pioneer means that he has incredible perception. Although his identity was revealed, he showed nothing but the lightning element. He learned that this element is incredibly rare, and it suppresses the element of darkness, which is highly valued by the army. Now Dan understands the difference between the army and the Association of Spiritual Energy Practitioners. The army is the night watchman, the blades in the darkness, the shield of the nation, and the association eliminates the remaining threats in the cities. After absorbing the element of devastation, Dan didn't feel like he was about to make a breakthrough. But as soon as he found himself in the Forbidden Zone, his spiritual energy was overflowing. I wonder if my cousin is back. Lin could let him try her improved cooking. She sees a pillar of light. This energy is too scary. It seems that some pioneer is about to make a breakthrough into the ranks of soul creation. Such a powerful pioneer was right under Lin's nose all this time. The anomaly level reached 99, and a spiritual vibration field was detected 5 kilometers southeast of the city. This level is enough to destroy an entire city. Either a pioneer of the soul creation level has appeared, or this area is facing disaster. The alarm was cancelled. It was a breakthrough. Lin is back. She can just leave the food in the kitchen. The cousin is decent, without bad habits, but terribly lazy. While pioneers are constantly chasing opportunities, he is idle. And at the same time, someone so powerful that he can shake the heavens has achieved creation. First a high temperature, and now a fire. It burns quite brightly. This is the so-called heavenly fire. It is a spontaneous combustion that cannot be extinguished, and it only stops when it has consumed everything it desires. The earth had already cooled down, and there was no trace of spiritual energy left. Dana meets Jenny. He's probably here because he still has feelings for her. She is the first beauty of the university. Dan has no chance. The director will take them to the point of the initial fire. Some say that no one has ever seen the director smiling. Dan must be the consultant Officer Lan was talking about. The director is sincerely grateful to him for his help. He bowed to this young man. This guy must be very special. Someone said that he was Jenny's fan, or her ex-boyfriend. It can't be. She will have to run after him. A few nights ago, the first field suddenly caught fire, and even the fire trucks were unable to extinguish the fire. Then the second and third fields caught fire, and the director personally saw tongues of flame falling from the sky. Fortunately, the fires in other fields have stopped. An anomaly above level 10 is a disaster. The level is too high. The entire city could be affected. Dan jumps over the fence. Last time, the sun element protected him from thunder, but this heavenly fire element also insulates him from the inner flame element. Intense fluctuations in the element of celestial fire have been recorded. Dan must absorb it no matter what. He obtained the 9-dragon heavenly fire technique. This is the aura of the seal. Amanda once saw the pioneer seal the forbidden area. Dan temporarily sealed the heavenly fire. Amanda would like to talk to him. At times like these, the country needs top-level talent. When the spiritual energy is fully revived, everyone will fight to recruit Dan. He wonders why Amanda and Van didn't try to recruit him into the restricted area. There is one military district that will probably interest him more. They'll stop there for now. The director invited them to eat in the university cafeteria. It seems that anomalies have already appeared that exceed the capabilities of current pioneers. The day of complete spiritual energy rebirth is approaching, but Dan still doesn't feel prepared enough. Heavenly fire is unpredictable and immense. This is a perfect match with the blood fire sword technique. There are no anomalies in this part of the mountain, but it has been fenced off. Perhaps the spiritual energy practitioners gifted this land to Dan, knowing about his experiments. But there is a feeling that some small thing has still managed to sneak in here. This aura is similar to the one at the factory, but not as intense. Surely this anomaly is now deciding whether to attack. I wonder what would happen if I combined the heavenly fire with the blood fire sword. Dan will check it now. The power of this flame is 3 times greater than that of the blood fire sword. A girl is streaming nearby. Even though it's her first day on air, the content finds her. Confirmation of her words immediately appears. She was attacked by the monster that Dan attacked, but he catches up with him again. The girl grabs the phone. She took this off. Someone is standing in the fire. This must be a deity who came to save people. The mysterious man who cut the heavens with a blade rules over flames. So powerful pioneers really do exist. It can't be Dan. If it were true, he would have turned to ashes. The crisis is looming and pioneers are becoming scarce. May believes that Dan will help them. You can offer him new weapons and equipment developments, as well as information on places to practice. But I still need to figure out this stream. Who would have thought that some streamer would make it to that mountain to broadcast? But now this video can no longer be found anywhere, and the stream itself has been blocked. Probably the work of the military or the association. Lynn didn't come back last night and didn't write to Dan. Her phone is out of network coverage. Lynn and Alice have been trapped here for about 10 hours now. Alice thought it was an ordinary shadow. A monster attacks from behind. Lynn attacks him. The people who died here became part of this anomaly. A huge eye appears in the black fog. It begins to multiply. Eyes surround Lynn. It seemed like they were both swallowed up by darkness. Lynn always knew that one day she would simply disappear into some nameless corner. She will no longer see the great revival of spiritual energy. Lightning flashes in front of Lynn. Dan was almost late. It was really him, and he saved them. The dark monster is still trying to attack. Dan will just test how heavenly fire affects darkness. Alice thinks she's gone to hell. Dan figured out the anomaly, and he hadn't even had breakfast yet. It was he who was at the vine hanging from the sky. It turns out that Dan is that very powerful pioneer who controls the element of fire. Dan asks why there were only 2 of them. Sally has a serious illness. She used to go on missions secretly from her family, and now she is completely locked at home. Justin seems to be busy with another mission. This time, Lynn underestimated the anomaly too much. Now that she and her friend know who Dan is, they can assemble their own team. Surely Dan had long ago realized that Lynn was a pioneer and secretly protected her. She will fry him 2 more eggs for dinner. They sent me a new task. I need to go to the zone of extreme darkness. This is the border zone of darkness, forbidden in the Sia country. Ashley Gallen is very mysterious and never says an unnecessary word. If she can issue tasks related to this zone, then she is either insanely brave, or from the army, or the top of the association. Ashley unexpectedly answered in great detail. The mortal risk is very high. If the team has a strong and reliable pioneer, then let them sign up. Now it all depends on whether he agrees. This is a clear reference to Dan. He definitely wants to go to the dark zone. If this is the very pioneer worthy of trust, then he will come. The task is necessary to maintain power in the Zia country. We must collect more unhardened flowers in the dark zone at all costs. The teacher is the only pioneer in the country who has reached the rank of Diamond Body. They are obliged to use flowers to heal him. The mission is important, but so is Ashley's health. Indeed, because she returned alive only thanks to her comrades. The zone of extreme darkness is truly an extraordinary place. They can only assign the task of picking flowers to Ashley. They gave her their spiritual energy, but did not know that flowers stained with blood or not plucked entirely were useless. They have been walking for almost 2 hours. There is a zone of extreme darkness ahead. The aura is 1,000 times more terrifying than the anomaly they encountered last night. Dan didn't expect there to be so many pioneers here. There have been several attacks by anomalies with dark elements in cities. Dan came too. Please, Great Buddha, let him not notice May. She didn't expect Dan to be here. This is Captain Senin from the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association. The current pioneers are all younger than each other, have no manners, and can't even nod to their elders. He should take better care of himself. The car arrived. This is Ashley Gallen. She must be here to open the gate. This is true. Special reminder: unhardened flowers must be whole and not stained with blood. She doesn't go herself, but sends them to certain death. S-level anomalies are comparable to, or even higher than the diamond body level. As soon as she entered the black fog, Alice's spiritual energy dropped sharply. The anomalies of the extreme darkness zone are not so scary. They will show these youngsters real strength. Lynn starts coughing. Dan puts his hand to it. The nausea and cold are gone. The fire element is so warm. This is the element of the sun. Today Dan will warm up Alice too. Maybe May's team wants to warm up too. They also get a dose of warmth. A monster appears. This is a level B anomaly. May takes over. They were surrounded. Now it's Dan's turn. In fact, there were only 2 of these anomalies. Anomalies may well disguise themselves and infiltrate their ranks. The sound of the surf seems to be heard ahead. This is a dark tide. Alice is going to throw up. It's just the smell of decay. It makes others sick too. Dark tide is a form of the element of darkness that consumes everything. They say his power is enough to wipe out an entire city. This barrier holds back the element of darkness. They can't contain it. Even that old man was just swallowed up. It doesn't matter. Dan will just destroy him. He throws himself into the center of the tide. As he thought, these were not simply evolved creatures. They had fused with each other. Now the power inside the tide is not less than the SSS level. Dan attacks. That guy is still alive. Dan activates the thunder element. We managed to save him after all. Regeneration must be a hallmark of anomalies above level S. Extremely strong dark energy has been detected. Element extraction is temporarily impossible. Since it can neither be destroyed nor absorbed, Dan will come up with another way. It's hard to believe that the dark tide can be stopped. Even while fighting the vines, Lin had never felt such anxiety. Here comes Dan. He just sealed the dark tide. It became temporarily safe, and we were also lucky to find a survivor. Dan sealed such a strong element of darkness, but for some reason he doesn't look happy. This is only a temporary seal. While the seal is still in place, you need to quickly collect the unhardened flowers. Intense fluctuations of the dark element have been detected. The systematization was successful. Dan received the technique of the dark element, the boundless dark world. Now, even if anomalies more powerful than the dark tide appear, he will be able to destroy them. Dan absorbed the power of the dark tide. Previously, someone tried to research ways to absorb this element, but they all paid too high a price. There was a pioneer who tried to absorb the element of darkness. His mind became clouded, and he is still in a mental hospital. If Ashley is correct, it was Dan who sealed the element of darkness. Ashley pulls out a gun. If May remembers correctly, Dan is the main candidate the army is trying to recruit. Their mission was to collect unhardened flowers. And now Ashley seems unhappy that they didn't die. If it weren't for Dan, their team would have been wiped out, and she stood and watched. It was a joke, and Dan passed the test, so Ashley's goal was to test him. Given his talent and strength, she didn't want to rely on cold reports. The pioneers can only follow the rules of the spiritual energy world, but they are lucky to have someone who is strong and can be relied upon. Ashley will show you where to find unhardened flowers. This woman is a little out of her mind. Her spiritual protection is severely damaged. This is a mass grave. And here is an unhardened flower. Something is wrong. Dan throws a fireball. Perhaps Ashley wasn't prepared enough. She is heavily infected with the element of darkness. Let Dan go for the flower alone. A monster grows out of the ground. Dan strikes him with divine thunder. But this monster has swallowed so many souls that this cannot kill it. Then Dan will try something else on him. The S-level anomaly has been downgraded to B-level. It's all over. Dan has mastered the element of darkness. The only one who could do this before was the teacher. The mass grave ahead should no longer be a hassle. Everything should be fine now. Mission accomplished. We must retreat immediately. They actually got the unhardened flower. This is a transport from the Star Wars Zone, the most powerful combat unit in the country. The Star Wars Zone ranks first among the 10 great zones of Jia country. The unhardened flower will be immediately taken to the hospital. So, Ashley is from the Star Wars Zone. Rumors about Dan's strength have already spread throughout their unit. His strength would be enough to easily crush even their most elite team. The number of dark anomalies is growing at a terrifying rate, like malignant tumors. Ashley believes that someone as exceptional as Dan should know the truth. He won't stand aside. They can count on him. Ashley wants him to keep this token. With it, he will be able to freely visit any restricted area for practices. Ashley also thought that he should meet her teacher. This was her personal wish. Besides, she would like to make friends. Then it will be a gift in honor of friendship. Dan will be able to destroy the poison of the dark element that has accumulated in Ashley's body. It was as if she was born again. If Dan's power is combined with medical devices, they can save even more pioneers. It would have taken 10 times more energy to treat that patient than Ashley received. Even if he just survives, it will be a miracle. Dan is asked to place his hand into the device and release spiritual energy. Lin and Alice want to train and take on some missions. They can't rely on Dan forever. The Star Wars Zone snatched it right out from under their noses. All of May's efforts were wasted. The structure of the Spiritual Energy Practitioners Association is still too disorganized. The elite teams are acting in disarray, not to mention establishing relationships with Dan. It must be strange that a diamond body rank practitioner has turned into a feeble old man. Even after using the untempered flower, He still hadn't regained consciousness. When the darkness element disaster hit the capital, the teacher used his own body to seal it, and they all also transferred spiritual energy to him. The power of this catastrophe was several times stronger than the dark tide. It could have destroyed the entire capital and surrounding cities. The teacher was struck by the darkness's counterattack, and if he hadn't been a diamond body-ranked cultivator, he would have turned to ashes. In his past life, Dan was also able to survive for so long only thanks to the pioneers. He wants to try to cleanse the elder's body of some dark energy. Maybe a miracle really will happen. Dan feels how powerful this darkness is. She begins to influence him. The darkness pulls his consciousness into the past. She asks who he is. It doesn't matter. He's here to destroy her. This lightning is as powerful as the one Dung absorbed on Mount Yuhuang. There are thousands of insect-like anomalies here. There is no choice. We will have to exterminate the pests. Dan activates the element of darkness. They will be back soon. It must be the residual consciousness of the dark anomaly. It said we, which means there were others. It's time to get out of here. Dan extracted the element of darkness from the elder's body. He seals it. The elder used his own body as a vessel to suppress the darkness. Anyone else in his place would have died dozens of times over. In the illusion Dan saw, the residual consciousness of the dark element seemed to warn them that they would return. Military and monitoring departments and associations regularly collect data on anomalies, and they say that it is possible that the first year of a complete revival of spiritual energy will not be survived. Dan's rebirth could have changed the future. Then he lasted 3 years. If this anomaly returns, Dan will fight shoulder to shoulder with Ashley. He feels that he is on the verge of breaking through to the rank of the second soul creation star. Even though he absorbed the element of darkness, it was still catastrophically insufficient. The white flower is active again. Dan regrets not giving him a chance to prove himself and improve his level. In such a short time, most of the burnt trees have already grown back. The flower should not get carried away, otherwise it will devastate all the forests on the planet. That's enough for now. Now you can move to another place. This mountain was full of animals, but Dan didn't see any today. Then he hears a howl. This is a pack of mutated wolves. It looks like their king has advanced to an A-level anomaly. We need to destroy it right now. If the wolves break through, the city will be in danger. I wonder how destructive the element of devastation is. Wolf King's transformation complete, infection level 90. Moreover, he is still growing. The strength of the Wolf King has reached the rank of the last star of the spiritual axe. The element of darkness has manifested itself again. Even if they can't win, these creatures can't be allowed to complete their transformation. The earth is shaking. This is another anomaly. This is the element of devastation. We need to run. However, the element of devastation does not spread in their direction. He dives deep into the mountain. These flowers will regenerate and multiply until they suck every last drop from the wolves. The king's body is protected by spiritual energy, so he will last a little longer. The Wolf King tries to attack. The element of devastation of these spiritual flowers has already taken root deep in the forest. An endless sea of flowers, born from the mountain and grown into it. The Wolf King gained intelligence and even found the source. He pounces on the flower. He grabs it. Dan couldn't imagine that after acquiring the element of devastation, these flowers would act without his intervention. Destroyed again and again, they will regenerate, leaving only bones from the anomalies. Dan would call it an endless spiritual sea. Now it's the flower's turn to transform. 2 completely different spiritual energies appeared in the infected zone. At the site of the Wolfpack's mutation, a powerful burst of devastating energy occurred, completely destroying the anomaly and retreating deep into the mountain. Now strange flowers are blooming everywhere. This time, the source of the energy of devastation is probably Dan. His house is right in that area. After absorbing the Wolf King, the flower gained the element of fire. It can be placed in the boundless dark world for nourishment and further growth. Then perhaps it will evolve again, gaining the element of darkness. Dan broke through to the level of the second soul creation star. The spiritual energy of the earth and sky flows into the body as if they were one. Here he is, the legendary wielder of the element of heavenly fire. Zhonglu simply had to break his pride and force everyone to admit that he was the first among the pioneers with the fire element. At last this pioneer has shown himself. All this time he was hiding there, not even hiding his energy. And Dan is interesting. He gives off strong spiritual pressure. He will remember Zhonglu's name for a long time. Dan activates Divine Thunder. Zhong thought he was a pioneer with the fire element. Dan punches the ground with his head. He didn't hear his name. Zhong is a pioneer of the first star level of soul creation, and his main trump card is fire. He should have no rivals at all. Everyone must bow down to him and flatter him. Only then will they benefit from this spiritual rebirth. Dan hits him with lightning again. Today's youth are so self-confident. Zhong asks not to kill him. The pioneer power is not intended to be used against humans. If you have time to start fights, it's better to spend it on destroying anomalies. Zhang has a cool new hairstyle. After all, he had been told that fighting would lead to nothing good. Against what is coming, they are road dust, and he also makes enemies. For some reason, Zhang didn't flare up. He doesn't look like that Zhang Lu who hits first and then greets. He was knocked out with one blow. If he had retreated, then he wouldn't have had to humiliate himself like this. Zhang's fire elemental power is incredibly pure, and it's unlikely that anyone outside of the combat zone would be as strong. When Zhang awakened and fought with them for the battle zone, he defeated 2 third-star Ghost Axe-level pioneers. It was a deafening, furious thunder, as if the heavens themselves were bringing down their roar right into Zhang's ears. He is a pioneer with 2 elements, fire and thunder. Zhang is willing to bet that he is at least the level of the 3rd star of soul creation. If Zhang is right, this guy will be the worst nightmare for the rest of the pioneers. Perhaps it is worth learning from him. Dan was on the verge of breaking through to the 2nd soul creation star level, but that surge suddenly disappeared. There must be an external reason. For some reason, the surrounding spiritual energy no longer resonates, and it is not possible to create the necessary environment for a breakthrough. Perhaps the spiritual revival in this city is starting ahead of schedule. I should contact Ashley and check how the military is doing. The subscriber is temporarily unavailable. If there had been a serious anomaly, Dan would have been notified by now. May is calling. The situation has changed. Reinforcements are needed. Dan suggests that there are a lot of anomalies in the city, but May says the problem is much worse. The connection was lost. A bat crashed into the glass. Dan attacks her. Anomalies usually appear unexpectedly, but this time they immediately burst into houses. Usually, anomalies of the 2nd star level of the Ghost Axe hide in the shadows. Lin must be careful not to let anomalies into the house. It is impossible to imagine what an anomaly of an undefined level means at all. May hopes it's a false alarm. Multiple anomalies were detected. The city is about to face its strongest storm in 50 years. Maybe it's not worth going after all. A bat appears. Small creatures usually stay away from the fire element. She burned down, but came back to life. A few hours earlier, a huge flock of bats had already gathered on the outskirts of the city. The anomaly is level S. These bats continue to multiply and cannot be killed. Their target is not the restricted area, but the city. It starts to rain. We need to take our raincoats and keep filming. They will risk everything to catch that viral shot. The streamer's satellite was attacked by a bat. There are so many of them and they suck blood. Someone is attacking a bat that attacked a streamer. They will take her home. It seems these mice have already transformed to the level of the 3rd star of the Ghost Axe. These anomalies are not like others. The swarms multiply and mutate, and it is impossible to completely destroy them. I'll have to deal with them alone. They will become food for the flower. No matter how many times May kills, there is no end to them. Spiritual energy will soon be completely depleted. Someone is calling for help. Anomalies have already begun to attack people in buildings. If this continues, the King of Anomalies will soon be born. The city was inexorably plunging into chaos and was on the brink of destruction. Troops from neighboring zones cannot enter the city. It is surrounded by a massive black shroud. The moment has come that will decide the fate of the city. Spiritual energy is almost at 0. This is the 3rd level of soul creation. A fire erupts in front of May. This is Dan. He attacks monsters with fire and sword. The search took a long time. There were too many anomalies along the way. Dan knows they can recover. If he promises something, he will definitely do it. He partially cleansed May's body of the energy of the dark element. The flocks of anomalies seem to be thinning out. It is still impossible to enter the city. The number of anomalies outside is not decreasing. It is assumed that their king is about to appear. This is a super S-level anomaly that can engulf an entire city. Something terrifying is growing inside this cocoon, and if it is born, the entire city will be destroyed. An individual with perfect evolution has a suppressive effect on its fellows, and they become servants. Such an individual is called the King of Anomalies. Even the strongest pioneer was bedridden after sealing the disaster. If possible, Dan should leave now, contact the military and tell them to cordon off the area. This is his home, and he will stay, even if he has to pay a high price. Dan asks to borrow an assistive device. He will get up there and stop it before it's too late. May heads to the location of the highest concentration of infection. Finally, this thing is showing signs of life. Everyone needs to connect with Dan. He will destroy the king. If they don't want the city to be wiped off the face of the earth, they need to hand over all the equipment and data they have. The cocoon is surrounded by swarms of anomalies that swirl like a typhoon. The northern direction has comparatively fewer anomalies, making it the best route for a breakthrough. This pioneer destroys S-tier darkness anomalies with a single blow. This is Tyrant. They are saved. After a breakthrough, the flame element greatly slows down the regeneration of these anomalies. Since Dan hasn't broken through to the next level, we'll have to rely on speed. The bats stopped attacking. There is only one explanation: they were called back by the Anomaly King. Ashley joins the attacks against the bats. It's at least half an hour to the city center. By that time, the King of Anomalies will already be born, and the city will no longer exist. It seems that flocks are gathering in the place where the King of Anomalies is supposed to be born. A flash of fire pierces the flock. We need to increase fire support. They are obliged to enter the city. The bats are gathering to stop Dan, which is exactly what he wanted. He delivers a crushing blow. Even in the midst of polluted spiritual energy, he feels that he is close to a breakthrough. Dan summons a spirit flower. It will dry out the anomalies and help break through. The cocoon looked ominous, but in reality, it was more like an illusion. However, Dan could hear the king's heartbeat. Like the war drums on ancient battlefields, it is dull, primal, and wild, stirring the darkest desires. But if the king has not yet appeared, it means that he has not hatched completely. The king's position is fixed. Dan activates the golden breath of the sun technique. It is a radiant higher element, completely opposite to the element of darkness. The number of anomalies is rapidly declining. Dan is about to attack the Anomaly King's cocoon. It hatches prematurely. The creature inside this cocoon will turn the city into a bloody hell. The flower summoned by Dan absorbed the power of countless bats. He's just like that vine, which means Dan has mastered the element of devastation. It is necessary to direct all spiritual energy into the network of plants that he created. Let it absorb their powers. Senior members of the association will also help. This is the combined spiritual energy of all the pioneers of this city. This is the resistance of all who were born here. 200,000 level B anomalies, 100,000 level A anomalies, and tens of thousands of level S anomalies. No matter how many minions the Anomaly King summons, Dan will destroy them all. The king is in such a hurry to be born because he is afraid of being killed before it happens. He was born. His mere appearance is capable of destroying the entire city. Dan must win. He was born and raised here. He loves this place and this life. So let the king die. A pathetic pioneer of the second soul creation star level dares to challenge him. He withstood the full force of the attack and remained unharmed. Even after Dan set the king on fire, he was able to swallow him. There would have been nothing left of an ordinary pioneer. Such an anomaly must have a highly developed intellect. It is strange that the king is not afraid of an attack from within. The insides are the most vulnerable place. It seems Dan's abilities have been significantly weakened by the slime. The spiritual flower had absorbed enough darkness, and also the spiritual energy of other pioneers. It seems the flower doesn't like the king's dark element. Before the Anomaly King and the bats attack the city, the evacuation must be completed quickly. A wave of slime washes over Dan. Suddenly he finds himself in the middle of a ruined city. There is a monster lurking behind the building. He rushes into attack. Dan dodges the blow. Since he was able to dodge, it means the body has the same strength as before. The Anomaly King wants to make him believe that he has returned to his past life. But the king cannot deprive him of all his power, and he himself is not strong enough. There must be a breakthrough point in this illusory reality. Once Dan gets here, he won't be able to get out. It's all over. That's his fate. People are nothing more than nutrients for the evolution of anomalies. This is truly all that a king can do. Dan did it to protect his home and everyone around him. That's why he went back in time. Now the system exits. Dan has been found to meet the requirements for a breakthrough. The Anomaly King helped him realize that his reincarnation had changed the course of history in this world, and he is the chosen avenger. Since he can no longer escape, he will become the king's food. Dan summons the heavenly fire of 9 dragons. It is impossible to possess such power at this level. A blinding flash lights up the sky. The city is saved. The sun is rising. We need to help people return to normal life and rebuild the city. If it weren't for Dan, they would have been blamed for letting the city fall. He had definitely reached the level of the second soul creation star. Someone would definitely contact him before them. The golden light piercing the clouds, the fire dragon sealing and destroying the anomalies. Everyone saw it. Lin is looking for Dan. Here he is. The king of anomalies was strong. Dan hadn't looked so pathetic in a long time. It's definitely him. It was an honor to lose to such a master. Jiang wants to become his disciple. They hope to watch the military and the association tear each other apart. A simple weapon won't take Dan, but no matter how much power he possesses, anyone who stands in their way will be destroyed. Someone is knocking on Dan's apartment. This is May and her director. On behalf of the association, they express their sincere gratitude. They plan to promote the title of Burial Manger, which was given to Dan. In every city of the Xia country there are powerful pioneers. The association wants to promote the entombment to make Taiju a key strategic metropolis. They realized that the city needed a powerful pioneer to serve as its leader. Dan was focused on cultivation and did not pay attention to the development of the city. The stronger the pioneers, The higher the city's rating, and the more resources it will receive, more and more independent pioneers want to join associations. Their association will protect Dan's identity and privacy. The main thing is to create an aura of mystery. This is beneficial both for him and for his loved ones. With the cooperation of the association and the military, the city very quickly returned to normal life. The Burrier is the very same pioneer who eliminated the anomaly in Taizhou. There must be many of those who have not seen his abilities with their own eyes, who are not confident in his strength. Even Laura Lam would like to witness his mastery in person. Jenny is studying in the library. One of the students wants to ask her for something, but she says that it is a library and he is disturbing others. Boring idiots, completely unaware of the changes in the world. After the exams, Jenny gained spiritual energy and became a first-star Ghost Axe level pioneer. Dan must have been sucked dry by those bats by now. The burial is 10,000 times greater than him. Only such a strong and handsome pioneer is worthy of Jenny. Today they will have a good rest. The goal is to find housing. Days off are rare, a good balance of work and rest is needed. May said that their living conditions needed to be changed, and that she would even give them 2 apartments. These people understand the value of a strong enough pioneer. No home can compare to that. It smells like a sewer drain has burst. But this is not the sewer. Someone is following them. Here comes the barrier. They realized it was him when he entered the potion's range. Taizhou is such a dump for promoting some brat. Let him give back everything that was given to him as a reward. May rushes to defend her cousin. They are all of the rank of soul creation. Some trash dared to rob Dan in broad daylight. It can't be. He was under the influence of the potion and should already be paralyzed. They just relaxed. With Dan's soul creation rank, there is nothing to be afraid of. Such dirty and mean tricks suit their flawed style very well. One of them attacks Lin. She manages to strike faster. Dan didn't mean to cause a stir, but having his daily life disrupted like this was very tiring. The pioneers are engulfed in flames. We must leave at least one alive. These guys were priority targets. The association began to register all pioneers, especially those like them. The burial clerk spared them only out of respect for the association. These guys have criminal records, and even though they have reached the rank of soul creation, they are facing life imprisonment. The association must bring more powerful pioneers like Dan over to its side, and under no circumstances should those idiots be allowed to ruin the good relationship with it. The association chose 2 properties for Dan and Lin, a penthouse in the city center and a 3-story villa in the mountains. Both properties are fully furnished and ready for immediate occupancy. The association has a partnership with a dealership. You can choose any car there. That girl has very fair skin and a pleasant aura, and the guy is unusual. He gives the impression of a strong person. He probably came to buy a car for his girlfriend. This is Jenny's ex-boyfriend. He buys a car for another girl. Molly just saw Jenny's ex-boyfriend. He is buying a car at an exclusive dealership for a very beautiful girl. She looks like an aristocrat. It seems the disaster in Taizhou didn't kill him. On the contrary, he was incredibly lucky and lives off his rich girlfriend. When Jenny reaches the top among the pioneers, these mundane trifles will no longer matter. They also have a penthouse. You can move back and forth. Finally, Lin isn't trying to act older. Ashley is calling. The first batch of spiritual fruits will be harvested soon. She will send Dan some. She has some task, and she needs him. It is connected with Tianbao Tower in Kangzhou, the largest shopping mall in the city. It was recently sealed. Many people died there due to an anomaly, and now it has become a real haunted house. Tianbao Tower is the symbol of Kangzhou. Recently, due to frequent abnormal events, various incidents have begun to occur there. Dan arrived on a mission from the Star War Zone. Ashley said not to reveal her identity or level yet. These 2 must be from the military district, and they look like May, apparently members of the association. For the duration of this mission, they are a team. Ashley said she sent a great master to them, but he looks like an ordinary student. Perhaps this is the burial cutter who saved Taizhou from destruction. Contact with everyone who entered the Tianbao Tower has been lost. The concentration of anomalies above the building has reached 12,000. The people Ashley sent this time won't let her down. Since the mission has been entrusted to the Star Military Zone, there is no need to ask any more questions. The situation is serious. Inside, the tower is quite narrow. It has 40 floors. Before the complete sealing, some refuse to cooperate and are still inside. Rescue teams have not returned. On the 2nd day after the sealing, body parts gnawed by anomalies began to fall out of the building's window. For ordinary people, they are insurmountable, and in a confined space, helpless sheep are unlikely to be able to escape the claws of the beast. There is no time to waste. We must enter now. Even if the military told him to obey Dan's orders, he should at least tell them his plan. Right now they are acting blindly. First they need to go in and assess the situation. They all have experience dealing with anomalies. As a commander, Dan should at least know about their capabilities. Enough talk. He took this mission because Officer Ashley Lan recommended him. If they don't want to come in, let them stay outside. For some reason, it's very quiet. A monster appears. Dan attacks him. It is a hybrid of a bird and a gecko. This is an anomaly above level A. In their view, the barrier is a recluse who never parts with his sword. After one of the breakthroughs, Dan fused his blade with spiritual energy, turning it into a spiritual weapon. He's probably not the only one who can do this. In this scenario, losses will easily exceed 500 people. There is blood everywhere, but no bodies. The monster appears again. Dan quickly deals with him. Even though these two anomalies were elite level, with such a small number, the rescue teams could not be completely destroyed. This place is probably not the real Tianbao building. We need to check some things to confirm our guess. If Dan is right, this place has been turned into an empty shell by the anomaly. He calls upon the boundless dark world. An analog of the element of darkness, the inner world of darkness, has been discovered. It is a space created by the elements of darkness, capable of consuming the original space. To get into the real Tianbao building, you need a gate. They are under the influence of darkness. The mind and emotions are distorted by hallucinations. So people mistook the window for an exit. The inner world of darkness has emerged. The spiritual shield is not working. Someone is trying to get into my head. Dan sets up a barrier. He found the gate. He breaks them. You can go. Now you can smell corpses and blood. There is a tornado of anomalies under the ceiling. Dan fully unleashes his inner flame. These people were innocent, but the anomalies hurt them. It's a shame that we have to bury them along with these monsters. Since the military and association members are here, they need to do something. Let them look for survivors. Dan is responsible for the anomalies. The real Tianbao building was completely captured by anomalies. After the mass killings and devouring, their level increased. Dan went up to the 15th floor. It's cold here. The element of darkness penetrates even through the spiritual shield. There is something crawling over these corpses. A giant centipede hangs from the ceiling. Finally, something interesting. The monster shoots black arrows. He thinks he can buy time for evolution, but it won't work. Dan burns the monster. He overestimated it. Survivors were unexpectedly discovered. There are 5 of them here. This is a secret room. It looks like a storage room for some big brand. All the monsters outside have been destroyed. They are now safe. All these terrible monsters were killed with one blow. This time they really have hope. The gravedigger reached the 40th floor in 10 minutes. But that's not the end. A pollution outbreak from the S-level anomaly has been detected. This is the king of anomalies, even though he is a bone bird. Those insects that seem to parasitize on his body are actually a part of him. They must also act, but they certainly cannot win. It's time to finish. If the bone bird is so easy to destroy, it doesn't deserve to be called the king of anomalies. Perhaps it is worth letting her taste the torment of helpless anticipation of death. Each blow seemed to be calculated down to the last detail. It never hit the skull. The bird can't even resist. Their strength is simply incomparable. She's still trying to heal. Dan strikes her with divine thunder. It's all over. The anomaly king's energy is running out. You can contact the outside world and report the situation. Thanks to the barrier, the mission was successful. The captain of the Kangzhou Association heard that he had arrived here. They tried to warn him not to cause trouble, but such proud pioneers never listen. The Kangzhou Association and their captain have unclear intentions. This is a challenge to the military's authority. Anyone who dares to challenge the barrier will be punished pretty fast. He is the captain of Kangzhou, Ray Song. Dan meets a wind elemental pioneer for the first time. This burying man is just a brat. Ray uses him to assert his family's prestige. Coming here from Taizhou is too much. You have to respect the chain of command and rules. Dan arrived at the request of the military to eliminate the anomaly. The Song family is grateful to him. Ray bears no malice and respects such talents. He just wants to take his blade, otherwise Deng will not leave Kangzhou. Then he'll take his damn family. This is getting interesting. The association members have 10 minutes if they don't want to lose their captain. Now everything depends on Ray's fate. If Dan wants to kill him, let him use all his strength. Dan appears from behind. Ray's body literally physically felt fear. This is the very blade, the new weapon secretly developed by the association. One blow of this blade can cut through mountains and seas. With a measly level of the second soul creation star, it's better to give the blade to Dan. Captain Kangzhou collided with Deng. In Kangzhou, they said that their captain is the pride of the city, so he cannot lose. They say he has just crossed the threshold of the third soul creation star. He is from an influential family, so he receives all the resources for practices. The burying man possesses several high-level elements. This captain from Kangzhou will not only lose, he might die. Spiritual energy disappears instantly, like mud sinking into the sea. They are in place. This is the association building. Ray didn't even notice how they got here during the battle. Out of respect for Taizhou and the war zone, Dung wanted to give him one last chance. But since someone insists on hiding, the situation will have to be clarified. Something is burning. It seems this flame was on the news in a neighboring town. Ray looks so pathetic, and Dan is only using 30% of his power. A colossal surge of energy was recorded at the Kangzhou Association building. Newly appointed Captain Kangzhou covets the burrower's weapon and attempts to kill him. We need to send someone urgently. This is a major incident. Laura Lamb thinks she should go. If Dan doesn't stop, Ray's family won't leave him alone. The burial man dared to attack the Kangzhou Association. He must immediately stop his aggressive actions. Attacking the captain is a challenge to the entire association. They don't take the captain who came to help seriously, simply because he is from another city. Perhaps they even think that their captain is stronger. Ray probably still wants the blade. Then let him try. This weapon is worthy only of him. In a sense, people like him are no different from anomalies. Since the Kangzhou Association indulges such people, Dung will put an end to it. He unleashes a fireball on the association building. He forgot to say that this sword was not created by the association, but by himself. It is his personal weapon. Ray was the only one in Kangzhou who had reached the level of the 3rd star of soul creation in a month. He could reach the rank of Diamond Body, but he is no match for the barrier. This man has the power to destroy an entire city. The purest energy of the sun is detected. The flame weakens and goes out. Laura feels that the power of the enchanter is immeasurable. She makes it rain. She is a pioneer of the water element and is much stronger than Ray. If the burying one had not stopped the fire himself, Laura's rain might not have been able to extinguish it. The development of spiritual weapons in the Taizhou Association is far from being at that level. This means that he created this spiritual weapon himself. They sent a man from headquarters. Now the barrier will have to report. He gave them 10 minutes, but after receiving the news, they did not come to give him an answer, which meant that they also decided that Captain Kangzhou must die. And if next time they dare to speak to him like that, he will kill them too. Laura goes down to Dan. It's time for headquarters to teach him a lesson. The association is to blame for this incident. Laura apologizes. Her words reflect the headquarters' position towards the barrier to appease, to calm, to reward. Captain Kangzhou threatened his life. He looked down on the help of the Taizhou Association and the Star Wars Zone. Laura gives 3 days to calm the residents and stop the rumors. Also, in 3 days they will all be removed from their positions. Anyone who dares to challenge the burial manger will end up like the Kangzhou and Raisong Association. Dan is curious what the association's headquarters is going to do about the rumors. Supernatural events are happening all over the world. Many already suspect what is happening. But if everything is made public now, unrest will begin, which will quickly destroy the semblance of order. If they want to maintain the appearance of equality and prosperity, they need those who, after the revival of spiritual energy, will be able to rise above the millions of ordinary people. Dan will be sent to Taizhou on a special plane, but Laura asks him to stay a little longer. She wants to be his friend. The Kangzhou Association turned out to be so short-sighted and stupid. If this continues, the strategic importance of their city will continually decline. Deng's compensation should be no less than that of the headquarters, and the reward for helping Kangzhou should also be doubled. His strength and character are admirable, and he is well suited to be the city's leader. Only he is worthy of going to the secret restricted area for training. And besides, one of their geniuses is also in seclusion there. Let the burrower level up quickly to grow in the coming darkness and reach heights beyond their reach. The elder has woken up and wants to talk to Ashley. 10 million yuan were transferred to Deng's account. Lin read about the Kangzhou incident on the forum. They write that Dan destroyed their captain. It is described very colorfully. Lin should spend less time on the forums. They agreed that she would improve as quickly as possible. Dan will go to training. It feels like he's preoccupied with something. You need to combine the dark element from the bone bird with the boundless dark world to make the most of the energy. The fusion is complete. When the enemy enters the boundless dark world, the bone bird and other anomalies inside will fight by Dan's side. It was found to meet the requirements for a breakthrough. It's that immortal again who destroyed all the bats. The anomalies absorbed by Dan are now like servants who are obedient to their sovereign. Their powers are extremely pure and very beneficial for his growth. Dan feels that all the absorbed elements and learned techniques have become more harmonious with the body, and the power has become more concentrated. The rest needs to be tested in practice. Half a month had passed since Dan had collected the untempered flowers and saved the elder's life. In just over 10 days, he accomplished so much that would have been the achievement of a lifetime for any other pioneer. Dan destroyed 2 anomaly kings, resolved disasters, and leveled up by 2 stars, all in just over 10 days. The energy fluctuations caused by the entombment are even stronger than those caused by the birth of the anomaly king. It is necessary to ensure that its evolution is not subject to external interference. Jenny didn't think the practice would be so difficult. She had no progress at all towards the second star of the ghost axe. It was not possible to find out any information about the barrier, or they simply do not respond. These mediocrities ignored Jenny once they found out she was only at the entry level. Changzhou has turned the barrier against himself. It is no longer possible to stay here. Dan believes that the changes in his body will be more noticeable once he reaches the diamond body level. Ashley asks if Lin wants to go to the Sky Sea Forest. Dan also received her invitation. The concentration of spiritual energy in this forest reaches 60%, and the mutation rate of flora and fauna is very high. The forest is under the control of a star military zone. Dan and Lin are met by Kim Rice, who was on a mission at Tianbao Tower. Commander Ashley Gallen tasked her with meeting them and also delivering a few messages. Just before their arrival, a mutated flame appeared in the heavenly sea forest that could not be extinguished. This girl has a very powerful aura. She is more talented than Kim. The chilling spirit of death in this place is not inferior to the dark tide. This flame is already much stronger than the normal fire element, and it has the desire to absorb spiritual power, but it is still just the fire element. He is powerless before the supreme element of the sun. The source is somewhere ahead. Lin's wood element is vulnerable to fire. The spirit of death became heavier. They have arrived. Dan has received the element of twilight fire. He can absorb the powers of the surrounding elements and enhance the element of the sun. A new technology has been received, the brand of death. It must be implemented with caution. The flame of the yellow source endlessly burns the one who is branded. The collapse of death endlessly destroys the body. The hellish vision opens the gates of hell. This ability is indeed powerful, but it may not be suitable for Dan right now. He asks the system to preserve the death brand technique, but not to study or implement it yet. Dan simply took and subdued the hellfire. No need to get distracted. There's something else here. Looks like a dragon. This is a mutated lizard. Dan is just about to test the Twilight Deity's sphere on her. A raging fire bursts out of the mountain. A new anomaly has been detected in the celestial sea forest, and the concentration of spiritual energy has increased by 100%. It was when the barrier entered there to practice that Elder Yui believed in his powers, but they still had to go there. Elder Yui has returned. If the burrower is a force that causes anomalies, then the Elder is a deep, restrained force, where even simple movement is shocking. It's here. The Elder destroys the barrier of stones. You can come in. It looks like someone wants to talk to them. Elder Yu approaches Dan. So he is the barrier, his savior. This mutated lizard possessed a power that surpassed the rank of soul creation. She could have gained the power of the diamond body. If it weren't for Dan, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Dan is very glad that the Elder has recovered. He asks not to tell about the existence of this creature. Apparently, due to the more frequent spiritual energy surges in the celestial sea forest, anything can manifest, and the Star War Zone takes on more responsibility. The Twilight Fire element is very similar to the legendary monster Taudi. With such a monster in the works, it's no wonder the Star Wars Zone takes this place so seriously. Dan feels a strange aura. She smells sweet and makes the heart happy. This aura comes from the pioneer of the wood element, Bai Su. Finally, a master who had reached the diamond body level appeared in the Star War Zone. He came out of seclusion. But now he is only halfway to a diamond body. Apparently this rank is not so easy to achieve. Bai Su was awakened very early. His talent and resources were among the best in the country. Originally, spiritual energy was something that disrupted the natural order, so progress involving the absorption of spiritual energy elements is the slowest among humans. Until now, among all of humanity, there have been only 5 pioneers who have attained the level of the 3rd star of the diamond body. This rank remains like a heavenly barrier. After reaching the rank of the diamond body, a person approaches what in ancient legends is called the supernatural ascent to immortality. Bai felt the vibrations of spiritual energy coming from Dan. Under its influence, he found himself half a step away from the diamond body, so he really wants to fight Dan. This Bai Su is modest in personality, but he has a lot of fighting spirit. In some ways they are similar. Dan agrees to fight. Elder Yui will take the liberty of acting as judge. This is a clash of 2 monsters. The wood element pioneer is naturally close to plants and can control them. Bai's spiritual power has reached perfection. He can create an entire army of plants and can take control of any plant. But all of this is excellent material for kindling. However, plants under Bai's control cannot burn. The branches intertwined around Dan and trapped him inside. If he were a real enemy, he would now be faced with more than just this. It's best not to touch the plants for too long. The tree itself is poisonous, but now the poison has become more concentrated. Then Dan should check. Flame destroys wood. Plants enhanced by Bai's spiritual energy cannot be burned in any way. Bai got distracted. Dan is clearly at the level of the 3rd soul creation star. but his abilities are no less than his. Bai is quite strong, so I had to think carefully about how to cut off his escape route. Dan is clearly on the same level as him, but he is so cunning that he does not lose his advantage even on Bai territory. But he cannot lose, having almost reached the rank of a diamond body. Creating another celestial sea forest would drain all the energy from it. The fight isn't over yet. We can leave it to Dan. It destroys plants. He seems disappointed with the strength of the Star War Zone. Dan didn't use even half of his power. Bai has a simple nature like a child, but he is obsessed with martial arts. He can still fight. It's time to finish. Bai summons myriads of living beings. He truly stands out among the pioneers and can even be called the strongest of the opponents Dan has ever encountered. Baya is captured by fire dragons. He can't move. Perhaps now we can finally finish. Although Ashley expected Bai's defeat, it was not such a crushing one. Not impressive. Bai thanks Dan for the fight. He has things to do, so he will go ahead. He goes into seclusion. Elder Yu wants Dan to become his successor. He will introduce him to the people from the Divine City. Being the largest in the Sia country, it controls colossal resources. Anyone who is worthy of being in the Divine City is very strong. In fact, Dan is not a member of the association, and he does not want to join any of the parties. He is right in his own way. Even if he does not enter the Star War Zone, he can make any demand. Then he wants to continue practicing in the Sky Sea Forest with Lin. It looks like a thunderstorm is about to start. As long as Deng remains the pioneer of the Xia country, it is already a great blessing. He rushes towards the storm. His fire element is so strong that any contact with such pure lightning force will only result in a violent clash of the elements within his body. The thunderstorm in the Heavenly Sea Forest does not allow any living creatures to approach it, and Dan is also going to summon Divine Thunder. He possesses the element of lightning. He is a genius who transcends an entire era. Dan just lacks spiritual energy. Every particle of flesh is carried in a whirlwind of 10,000 lightning bolts. The element of lightning seemed to have been completely reborn. Dan throws lightning at the mountain. This is a real thunderstorm. He split an entire mountain with one blow. This man was able to enter the first ranks of the Xia country on his own. Such talent is even a little scary. Elder Yui feels that Ashley has also changed a lot, and now he is even more confident in her future. By the way, you can invite that young lady too. The Elder has an idea. He wants to invite Lin to train in their military zone. Even Dan finds it hard to refuse such an offer, but he can't decide for her. Lin doesn't want to. If she says she doesn't want her cousin to be in a dependent position, it will sound like she doubts the integrity of the Star War Zone. But since she is also a pioneer, she has pride and wants to get everything by her own efforts. It feels like the child has grown up. Someone is sitting at the doorstep of Dan and Lin's house. Finally, they returned. Something serious happened at the border, and a captain from Yuanzhou contacted the association and asked for help. The man is seriously injured and is undergoing treatment at the association's medical center. She escaped from Yuanzhou at incredible cost to deliver the message. Mei comes to Captain Annie Chen with Dan. Annie heard that he had experience in disaster management. She is desperate. The concentration of anomalies was level B, but many were missing, including her sister. Since childhood, she has had a special connection with her sister. Annie feels that she is alive. This is a gift as a token of gratitude. Dan feels the familiar energy of the sun element. This is a spiritual crystal extracted from a mountain where an emission of solar energy occurred. No one could absorb even a fraction of his power, and he even burned some. A pioneer who does not possess any power has a chance to awaken it by swallowing a spirit crystal. Deng goes to Yuanzhou. At first, graves appeared out of nowhere in the mountains, and eyewitnesses from the village said they heard strange sounds. The area was cordoned off, but at night skeletons crawled out of the graves and dragged away the residents who were collecting herbs. They have arrived. There are no traces of anomalous energy. Less than a day has passed, and there are even more graves. Anomalies perform sacrificial rituals to awaken a larger anomaly. This is different from the Taizhou disaster, but there are similarities. Swarms of bats killed residents en masse precisely for the descent of the Anomaly King. People in these parts don't like the rapidly changing outside world. The association has been trying to persuade them to move, but they don't agree. It started again. A skeletal hand emerges from the ground. Dan cuts her in half. The other hand grabs the sword. They don't seem to be afraid of the sun element. The task becomes more interesting. These skeletons are low level, but they feel no pain, do not die, and do not stop attacking. Dan activates the Twilight Deity Orb. Such is the true power of the enchanter. They come to the Yuanzhou Association camp. These are Annie's comrades. What's happening in Yuanzhou is unlike any other anomaly. There are only a few of them left, and the city will soon be swallowed up by graves. They've been through too much. Dan will solve the problem. When insoluble problems arise, the villagers call upon the spirits and pray for blessings. There are graves everywhere, and they still pray. The ancient way of life and ancient rituals seem to have something in common with the anomaly. The ritual is about to begin. Dan thinks this event is not bad. The villagers pray to the gods. The sacred fire went out. The earth opens up. Graves and skeletons again. This must be a test. The gods will surely save them. A skeleton attacks a woman. Another one is about to attack the child, but he is struck by fire. This is heavenly fire. There are no gods in this world. They will not come. But the inhabitants still think that it was the gods who destroyed the disaster. Deng is not a god. He is a pioneer from Taizhou City. Annie said he was no ordinary pioneer. The Twilight Deity's orb absorbs a large amount of unknown elements. Deng will liberate Yuanzhu with a bloody, fiery sword. The indicators are normal. But in the area with the highest concentration, the light columns became larger. The concentration is continuously accumulating. This is the king of anomalies. It smells like something extremely unpleasant. There is a feeling of distortion of consciousness, as if the brain is polluted. Monstrous shadows are cast upon Dan. He attacks them. It is the element of death. It is of the same nature as the element of darkness. But even the strengthened element of the sun cannot suppress it. The inhabitants continue to call upon the deities. Dan's sword broke. Lin suddenly felt scared. Dan is just on a mission, and he easily destroyed 2 anomaly kings. Ashley is calling. Yuanzhou is surrounded by mass graves, and a quarantine has already been imposed. Cousin Lin is in trouble. The association's negligence towards Yuanzhou is deplorable. It was a B-level anomaly. And suddenly the king of anomalies appeared. Now is not the time to talk about it. Laura is going to Yuanzhou. First, they almost lost a diamond body-level master. Now the victim has become the pillar of the Xia country. He himself decided to go to Yuanzhou. This is the era of the revival of spiritual energy. One wrong step and death awaits you. Then there is no point in resisting and practicing. You can just wait for death. Laura doesn't believe that the barrier could have died so easily. This anomaly king's element is a mutation of the element of darkness, a previously unseen element of death. Dan probably fell into a trap. Military equipment cannot break through. No matter how much force they send, more and more graves appear, and the fighters on the front lines are already all swallowed up by them. The chances of solving the Yuanzhou problem are 0. The anomaly king is not afraid of any elements. He is even capable of suppressing the barrier. This can't be. Lin will go to Yuanzhou herself. The graves of Mei and Annie appeared in the square where the villagers prayed to the gods. Dan is lying in a coffin. The death mark implanted in him has been successfully activated, and he now possesses the power of endless death. The test is complete. It made him feel that even the Lord of Death was quite sweet and kind. I wouldn't want to go through this ordeal again. When Dan realized that he had been struck by the Death Lord's ability, the inevitable death, he immediately made a decision. Since he's going to die anyway, the only thing left to do is take a risk and implant the death mark. Its imposition on the Death Lord was discovered. The death stamp begins the final step, the trial by death. The flame of the yellow source is catching up from all sides. The collapse of death exposes the body to invasion and destruction. Hellish vision opens the gates of hell. All the suffering he had experienced made it difficult to distinguish between reality and hallucinations. Dan passed this test only at the cost of incredible efforts. Now the real battle begins. Dan activates Divine Thunder. His coffin collapses. The Lord of Death sensed his resurrection. He attacks. Dan escaped certain death. The aura of death is incredibly thick. Since they are here, we need to try to break up the graves. A stream of water rushes past. Laura is here to fight. Some almost manage to escape from their graves, but new ones appear again. This anomaly can drag all living creatures into the graves. The skeletons are advancing, but suddenly something happens, and they return back to their graves. It is unknown what the King of Anomalies has planned, but it must be something grand. If he withdrew the power, the people who were just buried here have a chance to return. This means that the barrier did not die, but on the contrary, caused the King of Anomalies a lot of trouble. Confronting the Lord of Death is certain death, as it seems as if only death and destruction exist before him. But now the ability of inevitable death will work against him. The Death Lord attacks again. He begins to fall into a senseless cycle of death. Dan attacks. The yellow source flame has been activated. The Lord of Death does not notice the weakening and does not even feel pain. He considers Dan's attacks useless. Dan strikes the Death Lord with heavenly fire. The Death Crash effect worked. The Death Lord grabs Dan. He should look at what he's become. Death Lord has been weakened by 60%. The hellish vision effect has been triggered. The weakening speed has increased. The graves began to collapse. The front lines reported that the ghostly glow was dissipating. Yuanzhou still needs their help. It is necessary to prevent further spread of the anomaly. Mei climbed out of the grave. Just now she felt as if she was about to lose her life. She found herself in hell. But this vision disappeared very quickly. We need to save people quickly. Mei tries to pull Annie out. It feels like the sky is collapsing. He is a noble lord of death. These creatures dare not look down on him. Hellish vision weakens the Death Lord by 80, 90, 100%. The old ruler has fallen, a new ruler has risen. The barrier did not die. He did not fall under the influence of inevitable death and summon demons from the underworld to devour the Lord of Death. There is no escape from inevitable death. It can only be destroyed. The barrier did indeed die, but he gained the power to destroy the Lord of Death. He could subjugate the barrier, but then he became a puppet, and they wouldn't be able to save so many people. And besides, the summoned creatures didn't attack them. Here she is seriously wounded. She has already turned blue. There's someone in the sky, and he has the aura of the King of Anomalies. This is the barrier who saved them. He is their god. He defeated this abomination. It's time to finish. This is a real manifestation of hell in the world of the living. Dan sends spirits where they belong. The sky is illuminated by the dazzling, purifying light of the sun element. Finally, it's all over. The battle with the Death Lord had drained a huge amount of spiritual energy, and it was still unknown what side effects the Death Brand would have. Dan descends to the ground. Lin rushes to hug him. Sister Annie is alive. The expected death toll in the city is about half the population. Independent rescuers arrived in Yuanzhou. Numbering 1,500 people, 50 have been confirmed dead, and 30 are listed as missing. It is now possible to officially announce the beginning of the revival of spiritual energy. It's not up to them to decide. People are not as weak as they seem. Even those who have not awakened are preparing for the end of the world. There is no need to take on the fate of all people. Laura originally came to support the barrier and meet him, but now that is no longer necessary. Besides, he is very busy now. A public announcement that he has defeated the Anomaly King will send a powerful warning to other countries. It is known that countries A, B, and C began surveillance and data collection on him from the moment he appeared publicly. But the key data is unknown to them. Once the events in Yuanzhou become publicly known, they will conclude that the Xia country has already mastered all the secrets of reviving spiritual energy, something no one else in the world has yet been able to achieve. They clearly wouldn't dare act rashly. After the cleanup, officials discovered a dark spirit crystal left behind by the Death Lord and gave it to Dan as a token of gratitude. Now he has two crystals of opposite elements of the highest level. Even though they are opposed to each other, Dan can absorb them since he is recognized as the new master of death. Dan received the dark element technique, the Dance of Death. It sounds mysterious, but in essence it is just teleportation. Although this skill is simple, its role in combat cannot be overestimated. Teleportation simultaneously saves lives and allows escape. After defeating the Death Lord and absorbing his crystal, Dan feels closer to the level of a diamond body than ever before. There is also a crystal of the sun element. In Yuanzhou, they felt that the crystal's handover was not solemn enough, and they held a lavish ceremony. They even erected a statue of Dung. He swallows the crystal. Obtained the technique of the sun element, sun god. A huge golden figure appeared in the sky above Taizhou. Perhaps it is the legendary golden raven. But surely it is the same god who saved the city who is once again overcoming his limits. Yesterday, the so-called great fortune teller from country B said that the Xia country would not survive even the first year of the revival of spiritual energy. It's true that a lot has happened in the Xi country recently. Jenny has been awake for a long time now, but she is still at the level of the ghostly axe of the first star. An arrogant young lady like her would surely hate the revival of spiritual energy, as being the object of contempt was quite unpleasant. If they were so eager to mock her, they should first become as strong as the barrier. So, Jenny wants to become his partner. She's been kicked out of the team, let her go to her barrier. She completed the task with them, let them give her her share. She should be glad that she is not being asked to pay. The great fortune teller from country B made a sensational statement. The Xia country, the first power on Earth, will not last even a year. This prediction has a strong impact on their pioneers, so it is necessary for Dan to speak from the official account. Country B is skilled in using public opinion and psychological warfare, all to shake the people's spirit, deprive them of stability and hinder improvement. Country B won't let them get any stronger. They're said to be behind the disaster that nearly happened in Shenzhou. According to the forecasts of all countries, it was supposed to happen in country B. Dan writes that the end of the world cannot keep up with the speed of his breakthrough. At such a moment, there is no need for long speeches and attacks on country B. You just need to communicate your strength in the simplest way. This barrier is simply disgusting. He has unimaginable influence. No one will dare to interfere with their plan. In the west, two powerful elements merged, creating a new no-go zone. These are the elements of sun and darkness. The zone is extremely dangerous. but perhaps great power is hidden within it. Dan is about to test out 2 new abilities. This black curtain is the only barrier of the forbidden area of Ming Ying. One can only enter by breaking through it. This is the selected vanguard from the Shenzhou and Haizhou headquarters. All of them, like Dan, have reached the level of the 3rd star of soul creation and are the best pioneers. Yiming Song will go first. One of the reasons he agreed to take on the mission from those old men at headquarters was the barrier. Imin has the purest element of fire, complemented by the element of wind. This dark storm curtain is difficult to pierce due to the condensation of darkness, but for him it is as easy as pie. Then Wang Lan is next. His water-cutting technique doesn't look aggressive, but as his level increased, his defense became extremely advanced. The elements of sun and darkness can indeed merge. Imin is indifferent to the element of the sun, but the element of darkness is incompatible with the human body. Imin also wants to see what the barrier is capable of. This is the element of the sun. Yiming wonders how Dan did it. It is only necessary to suppress the dark storm curtain with a stronger and purer element of the sun than the darkness contained therein. Every brilliant pioneer reconsiders his worldview after meeting Dan. A pollution source has been detected. A level A anomaly has appeared. Perhaps these people are from Country B. There were no other registered pioneers today. They are from Country B and they are here on trial. This is the territory of the Xia country. They entered someone else's forbidden zone without permission. They will not let go of uncaptured resources and will take them here and now. Dan feels that these 3 are hiding their aura. Their level is higher than Ashley and Yamina. That's why they act so brazenly. 3 illegal immigrants from Country B were discovered in the northwest of the restricted area. This pioneer has an element of darkness. These are the properties of cadaveric poison that arose after the decomposition of corpses under the influence of the element of darkness. They destroyed the means of communication and monitoring. Darkness is coming. The van is closed with a water barrier, but he can't stand it. Dan uses fire. Next time he won't be so lucky. His comrades are even more helpless than he is. This pioneer has at least the rank of Diamond Body. The storm curtain closed again, and pioneers from Country B illegally entered the restricted area. The data is saved, just in case we made a backup copy. It turned out to be true that someone in Country B had mastered the element of darkness. Rumor has it that experiments were conducted on pioneers there, and the man in the video may be the result of their labors. Dan's comrades are already infected with the poisonous element and will soon rot alive, and Dan will go with him to Country B and become a part of it. The 2nd star of the Diamond Body, Dan thought that the pioneers of Country B were stronger. The poison of the underworld has no effect on him. Dan attacks the comrades of the Dark Element Wielder. These 2 nobodies were defeated so easily. A person cannot escape from cadaveric poison. Dan activates the Sun Element, enhanced by Heavenly Fire. It is impossible to master a power comparable to the Anomaly King. There is a lot of dark element here. Dan won't be able to kill it. So, he wants to absorb the element of darkness to recover. But it's a pity that the poison of the underworld is too weak, and the speed of converting dark energy into healing energy is too low. The element of cadaveric poison suppresses something. Dan snaps his fingers. The owner of the element of death explodes. The issue has been resolved. Dan directs lightning energy at Van and Yiming. He cleansed them of the element of darkness. The fighting ability of this rabble from Country B is questionable. The one with the Diamond Body rank clearly didn't achieve it through normal means. The spiritual energy is very dirty. Rumor has it that the natural disaster that was stopped by Elder Yui was originally supposed to hit Country B. Elder Yu is the strongest of the pioneers of the Xia country. He could be targeted, and Country B has always been in conflict with them. Before, Imin was too stupid, but now he will hang the portrait of the barrier by his bed to motivate him to train. Although Dan had purified Yiming and Wang of the dark element, it was best for them not to approach the core of the forbidden area. Dan will see her true form.